Hello, bookworms. Welcome back to the Bonafide Bookworm. I'm your host, Rachel, and if you're here to read along with me and help learn English. Although what I just said was probably really bad English. So, my allergies have been insane. I actually did not work one day last week, like on Thursday. Like Thursday, it was the worst. Oh, and I forgot to set my timer. We've got to be on time. Got to keep it around that 10-minute mark. Don't want you to lose too much interest. So yeah, so my allergies have been insane, and I had gone to the doctor. They gave me some nose spray. That was pretty much it, and I just suffered along, and I could not record on Thursday. So I am sorry. That is not an excuse. So I'm here today. I worked today, went to the gym, and I am sweaty and gross right now, and I pretty much just changed my top so that I could get on here and get this video done because I really want to commit to the Tuesdays and Thursdays. So no book review today. We're just gonna jump right in. Again, we're reading Touching the Void by Joe Simpson, and we had stopped at the top of page 49. So there's also a picture on page 49 if you are following along. If you're not following along, I'll try to show you the picture. And it looks like it's just kind of showing the whole mountainside and where everything happens, I guess, where they sleep each night. And oh, there's a mention of an accident on the map, so we're getting to some more interesting parts. But you know, I hope nobody dies, because I thought about that and I was like thinking about how I'd said this book was a little slow going, starting off. So I really hope that everybody's okay as we continue to read. I guess we'll find out. So let's start back at page 49. All right, the base of the gas canister was coated in a thick layer of ice. I knocked it against my helmet and managed to remove most of it. Then I stuffed it deep into my sleeping bag, feeling the icy metal against my thighs. 5 minutes later, I was snuggled in again with only my nose sticking out of the bag and one eye keeping a sleepy watch on the stove. It roared busily, but it was dangerously close to my bag. Blue light shone through the cave walls. It had been a long and bitterly cold night at 20,000 feet, perhaps nearer 21,000. When the water was boiling, I sat up and hurriedly donned my polar jacket, windproof, and gloves. I fumbled in the snow wall of the cave, looking for the sachet of fruit juice and the chocolate. Brew's ready. God's teeth, I'm bloody freezing. Simon uncurled from his cramped fetal position, took the steaming mug, and disappeared back into his bag. I drank slowly, hugging the hot cup to my chest, watching the second lot of snow melt down in the pan. The gas flame was not so strong. How much gas have we got left? I asked. 110. Is that one empty? Not quite. We may as well drink as much as it will produce and save the other for the descent. Yeah, we haven't got much fruit juice left either, just one packet. We'll have judged it right then. Enough for one more bivvy. That's all we need. It was a long, cold business gearing up, but that was the least of my worries. The flutings lay ahead, and it was my turn to lead. To make things more difficult, I had to exit the cave and somehow climb over the roof, which stretched the full width of the gully. I succeeded, but not without destroying most of the cave and burying Simon, who had belayed me from inside. Once on the slope of the gully, I looked back down to where we had climbed the previous night. All traces of the trench dug by Simon had disappeared. It had been swept clean and refilled by the incessant waves of spindrift which had poured down the gully during the snowstorm. I was disappointed to see that the gully ended about 100 feet above me. The flutings on each side joined together to form a single razor-sharp ribbon of powder. I would have to try to cross over into another fluting after all. The sky was clear and there was no wind. It was Simon's turn to sit stoically under the deluge of snow I was forced to kick down, but daylight had dubious advantages. It made the climbing easier and allowed me to see whether I was about to slip. On the other hand, it provided unnerving glimpses between my legs of 4,500 feet of emptiness. Knowing that our belays were anything but secure and that any fall would be disastrous made me concentrate on the way ahead. As I approached the dead end in the gully, the angle steadily increased, and it became obvious that I would have to traverse one through the side fluting soon. But which one? I couldn't see over the sides of the flutings and had no idea what I would be traversing into. I looked down and saw Simon watching me intently. Only his head and chest stuck out from the roof of the cave, and the huge drop framed behind him emphasized the precariousness of our position. I could see that the flutings were not as high near the cave, and that Simon might be able to see more of the way ahead than I could. Which way should I go? Can you see anything? Don't go left. Why? It seems to drop away, and it looks bloody dangerous. What's on the right? Can't see, but the flutings are not so steep. It's a lot better than the left anyway. I hesitated. Once I started plowing through a fluting, I might be unable to return. I didn't want to find myself in an even worse position. However high I stretched, I couldn't see into the gully on my right. I wasn't even sure there would be a gully there, and none of the snow I could see above me gave me any idea of what might be awaiting me. Okay, watch the ropes, I shouted as I began to dig into the right-hand side of the gully. Then I laughed at what I had just said. It would do no good concentrating on belaying if the belay was going to rip straight out. To my surprise, digging furiously with both axes into the fluting was no harder than climbing the gully, and I emerged breathing hard on the other side, in an identical steepening gully above which I could see the huge cornice of the summit only a rope's length away. Simon floundered up to me and whooped when he saw the summit behind me. "Cracked it," he said. "I hope so, but this last bit looks bloody steep." "It'll go." He set off up the slope, churning huge amounts of freezing snow down onto my exposed belay hole. I pulled my hood over my helmet and turned my back, gazing down at the glacier far below me. Suddenly our exposed stance appalled me. The loose snow was so steep and my belay so precarious that I felt a sickening disbelief in what we were doing. That's what I've been saying this whole time. Sorry. An excited yell tore from my thoughts, and I turned to see the rope disappearing over the top of the gully above. "Done it. No more flutings. Come up." He was sitting, legs astride a fluting, grinning maniacally when I pulled myself wearily out of the gully. Behind him, less than 50 feet from us, the summit cornice reared up in a threatening bulge of snow ice which overhung the west face. I quickly moved past Simon and cramponed on firm snow up and to the left, where the summit cornice was smallest. 10 minutes later, I stood beneath the snow ridge dividing west face from east. "Take a photo." I waited until Simon had his camera ready before planting my axe over the ridge on to the east side and heaving myself over onto the broad back hole under the summit. For the first time in 4 days, I had a new view on which to feast. The sun bathed the snow sweeping down into the eastern glacier. After the long, cold, shadowed days on the west face, it felt luxurious to sit there, warmed by the sun. I had forgotten that now we were climbing in the southern hemisphere. Everything was the wrong way around. South faces here were the equivalent of icy cold north faces in the Alps, and the east faces became west. No wonder the mornings had been so cold and shadowed, and we had to wait until late in the day before being blessed with a few hours sunshine. Simon joined me, and we laughed happily as we took off our sacks and sat on them, carelessly dropping axes and mitts in the snow, content to be quiet a while and look around us. "Let's leave the sacks and go up to the summit," Simon said, interrupting my self-indulgent reverie. The summit, of course. I'd forgotten we had only reached the ridge. Escaping from the west face had seemed to be an end in itself. I looked up at the ice cream cone rising behind Simon. It was only about 100 feet away. "You go ahead. I'll take some photos when you reach the top." He grabbed some chocolate and sweets before getting up and tramping slowly up through the soft snow. The altitude was having its effect. When he was outlined against the sky, bending over his axe on top of this spectacular summit cornice, I began feverishly snapping photographs. Leaving the sacks at the coal, I followed, breathing hard and feeling the tiredness in my legs. We took the customary summit photos and ate some chocolate. I felt the usual anticlimax. What now? It was a vicious circle. If you succeed with one dream, you come back to square one, and it's not long before you're conjuring up another, slightly harder, a bit more ambitious, a bit more dangerous. I didn't like the thought of where it might be leading me, as if in some strange way the very nature of reaching the summit. I'm sorry, I'm reading too fast. As if in some strange way the very nature of the game was controlling me, taking me towards a logical but frightening conclusion. It always unsettled me, this moment of reaching the summit, the sudden stillness and quiet after the storm, which gave me time to wonder at what I was doing and sense a niggling doubt that perhaps I was inexorably losing control. Was I here purely for pleasure, or was it egotism? Did I really want to come back for more? But these moments were also good times, and I knew that the feelings would pass. Then I could excuse them as morbid, pessimistic fears that have no sound basis. So we're going to stop there, midway on page 53, and we'll pick back up on Thursday. I've got some time off coming up this week, so I'm hoping that I will record multiple episodes this week, like I said, since I have some time off coming up, and I will post again on Thursday. I hope you have a great week.